Hello, this is Tip Top Gaming here today with another MTG Arena news video. Now in today's video we are going to be covering MTG Arena State of the Beta, August 2019. And the theme of this State of the Beta is rotation and renewal. The release of Throne of Eldraine on September 26 heralds a new start for Standard with the yearly rotation. It's a great time to be on, or jump back on, MTG Arena. Updates to Standard, renewal rewards, and special events throughout the month of September, as well as updates to Historic will make rotation an event that you can't miss. Throne of Eldraine's release is just around the corner, and with it came our Standard set rotation. Rotation is exciting once-a-year refresh of Standard, where the environment is shaken up. When the fall set releases, the 4 oldest sets in Standard rotate out. So basically, this is a little guide as to how this will work. So currently, these are the sets currently in Standard. Then, so this was released in 17, 18, blah, blah, blah. Then, when this releases, it'll knock out everything from M19 backwards. So you'll end up with Guilds of Ravnica, Ravnica Allegiance, War of the Spark, M20, Throne of Eldraine. Then, there'll be 3 more sets, and then this whole thing will happen again. So once, with the release of Diving, the rest of the sets, with these sets, so the Ravnican sets, M20, and Throne of Eldraine, will also rotate out. Another thing to note is this does confirm Core Set 2021 is happening. It's not ending with Core Set 2020. So yes, we will be saying goodbye to Ixalan, Rivals of Ixalan, Dominaria, and Core Set 2019, as well as welcoming Throne of Eldraine. Not, just to remind you, this is not happening September 4th with this update. This is happening the next update. So this is doing some of the preparation. So, starting with this update, there'll be more information about rotation actually in-game. So, here's some big questions. Standard 2020. Rotation will happen on MTG Arena with the release of Throne of Eldraine on September 26th. Kind of, and I will go more into that later. There'll be actually probably another month until after that happens. No collection reset. There will be no reset, wipe, or removal of cards from your collections. Those cards will still be yours to play in non-standard formats. There are a couple things to note here. The previous rotation brought about a complete restart to the thing, and they said to everyone's progress, and they said they were not doing that. They will not be doing that, so we don't have to worry about that. However, one thing to note is it doesn't say it will still be yours to play in Historic. It says in non-standard formats, so that means we can expect some non-historic formats that still use older cards, whether it be blocks or maybe a Brawl variant that is Historic. So yeah. And then Historic play. Just because some cards are leaving Standard doesn't mean you can't play with them. In November, you'll notice in November, we will be launching Historic, a deep format for experienced players that leverages MTG Arena's digital playground with the growing catalog of Magic cards. For those of you who don't know, they announced Historic a little bit ago, and there was a lot of backlash against it, and it says right here, they have changed how it's working. But before we get into that, we need to talk about renewal and events. So this nice little graphic shows that you will get 200 XP every 2 consecutive wins between the 9th and the 26th. I don't know if there's a cap on this, but if there isn't, this is a way that even if you missed half the month, if you play enough, you will get to level 100, which I think is a very good idea, to not be like, oh, I'm 1 level away from beating it and I can't get that XP because I missed a day. That can't really happen. You'll also end up with 10 rare ICR rewards. Now, what you'll notice is these are not wild cards. You will just get 10 random rare wild cards, of course, only from Standard. And with Renewal, you'll notice that the set mastery, in levels 1 through 25, you'll get 12 Throne of Eldraine packs and 2 Mastery Orbs. But with Renewal rewards, so including these rewards, you'll end up with 2 more Throne of Eldraine packs, 4 Standard packs, 10 ICR for uncommons. With the new set on a new plane in a new Standard environment, we want to give you a warm welcome to Throne of Eldraine. This means a special event and rewards leading up to its release on MTG Arena. So these events will happen before Throne of Eldraine, but also after, because it says 14th Throne of Eldraine pack, so we'll see how this goes. Then we'll keep the party going with even more rewards after September 26th. Sorry, maybe I should have read that. Then, starting on September 9th, we'll be holding a special Standard 2020 event that will help you get ready for the new Standard. So September 9th, that's next week or the week after. These events will allow you to play with decks you only using cards from Guilds of Ravnica forward. As we head into Throne of Eldraine preview season, this is a perfect opportunity to brew some decks and keep an eye on the new cards you may wish to add when the set releases. So this is basically Ravnica Constructed plus Core Set 2020. Basically saying, hey, this is a good idea of what card you're not going to be able to use in the future. These events will have no entry fee and will be available to you in Best of 1 and Ranked Best of 1 match structures. Every 2 consecutive wins will reward you 200 Mastery XP, and you can play them as many times as you'd like, which allows you to catch up on your Core Set 2020 Mastery Pass. Or maybe finish off those last few levels. Play as many times as you like, meaning you could get infinite XP. And also, please note that Set Mastery will end at 4 a.m. Pacific Time. Just another thing to note. They did confirm a couple of things about quest resetting. Now, I want to really quickly go up here and let you guys watch this video and see if any other information is revealed. I just realized you guys can't hear this, so I'm just going to continue with this. I am so sorry about that. So players who have logged into MTG Arena prior to September 26th will get a specific, will also have a special renewal gift waiting for them. 10 rare or higher, meaning they could be mythic rares from Standard 2020, not Core Set 2020, Standard 2020, including Throne of Eldraine, meaning this is when the update is happening next month, is September 26th. A new set release also means new set mastery, and our renewal gifts extends to this as well. We'll be adding additional rewards to the first 25 levels in the form of uncommon ICRs and booster packs, and these additional rewards will be available to all renewal gift recipients. No mastery pass required. Again, these renewal gifts are only available to players who have logged in prior to September 26th to help kickstart their new standard collection. We're not joking when we say now more than ever is a great time to play. So basically, hey, if you've played before the 26th, since new players are going to get a bunch of new cards and you're going to have a lot less standard cards to play with, we are going to give you 10 cards, basically, 10 rares or higher, which is equal to about 10,000 gems, so that are coins. Now, not everything about this State of the Beta is positive, and we're going to start getting into these soon, but this, I think, is positive. When we first started talking about rotation and renewal, we also introduced our plans for Magic the Gathering Arena's non-rotating format, similar to Modern, Historic. At the time, we announced that Historic would only be available as this is where people started to complain. Be available as a best-of-one play queue. And there weren't any plans to add additional events, older sets, or ranked queues at the time. So, at the time, there wasn't any plans to add additional events. So events that were like Historic Singleton, that was not going to be a thing. There were not any plans to add older sets, which means like Amonkhet, older cards, and ranked queues. That was people's biggest complaint. Oh, there's no ranked queues, so basically my cards are now worthless. And today, we're here to say that most of that has changed. Rewriting Historic. After considering some player feedback, so one thing I've noticed MTG Arena does a lot better than normal Magic the Gathering is looking at player feedback and changing. After considering some player feedback, we went on to the drawing board and decided some core criteria for a non-rotating format, Historic. It should feel distinct from other constructed formats, namely Standard. There should be a balance. There should be some competitiveness to it, like Ranked, and finding a balance for a long-term health of MTG Arena. But with, my audio's imbalanced. But with criteria comes great complications or something along those lines. How do we balance existing player collections while still making a format accessible to players who do not want to jump in? How do we make it feel distinct from Standard while balancing the development time needed to add older cards? If we add new player queues for a brand new format, what does that mean for the quality of matchmaking and how long it takes to find a match? Well, we put together a lot of these questions and we're excited to share the changes we've made. New cards? Who dis? Starting with bullet point 1, how can Historic provide a fun, unique digital experience that does not just feel like old Standard? Well, the answer is add new cards to Historic. Not like a Modern Horizons, but you'll see. It may seem rather obvious, and we landed on a pretty awesome way to leverage MTG's Arena's digital playground and growing catalog of Magic cards. Starting in November, we plan to add new cards to MTG Arena from across Magic's history. So not just recent Magic, it could be old Magic. So think about a mini set being released every month. So like, oh, here's just 20 cards, maybe there are some from all the way back to the Legacy, and probably not anything overpowered, because I want to keep it balanced, but basically every month they're going to be releasing 15 to 20 new cards, at least in November. We know players would love to see entire sets in MTG Arena, but speaking candidly, the development time required to add hundreds of cards from older sets, knowing only a few may have a positive impact on Historic, was more time than we could honestly commit. I think this is very fair. Adding full non-standard sets may eventually come, but right now we'd rather focus on adding meaningful cards on a timeline players can look forward to. Now, may I mention, it doesn't say old. It just said full non-standard, so I could see them doing Historic Horizons, similar to Modern Horizons. We are working with Magic R&D to ensure that the new additions create a fun and interesting format, but we're also interested in player feedback on which cards you'd be most excited to play with on MTG Arena. As we get closer to November, we'll be looking for direct input from players on which cards to prioritize, so keep an eye out. So if you have cards that are like, oh my gosh, this isn't broken, it will just add a lot to Historic, I want this, you should speak out. May I mention, by the way, we are only about halfway done. This is a very long post. Although a lot of it is speaking about stuff happening in the future, not happening this month. And honestly, so far this month has been kind of disappointing. If we go back through it, events, okay, so we'll have the catch-up events, rewards, this will be September. This is State of the Beta August. Sure, it's being released in September, but this is still the August update. Historic, which isn't even happening in September. Rewriting Historic, that's not happening in September. This is starting in November, so a lot of this isn't happening this month. So this overall for August is kind of sad, but it's a lot of good information for September and November. One for the history book. How can we add a competitive aspect to Historic? And if you're answered, add a hit ranked queue, which I think was the obvious answer, you would be correct. In addition to adding new cards from the format, we're also expanding the ways in which you'll be able to play Historic. First and foremost, we will add Historic Rank Queue for Best of 3 play in December. So Historic Best of 3 will come in December. Though Historic Rank will contribute to the same as constructed rate as Standard, which I think might be kind of difficult, as if you have the top 1,000 players, you're not ever going to be able to beat the number one player if you're a Standard player and they're a Historic player. So I think maybe having 2 would have been better, and then not averaging them, but taking the better one, even adding them, giving you more rewards for being active and getting to Mythic in both. I think that would have been a way to encourage people to play more and have more types of decks, but I'm fine with that. Though Historic Rank will contribute the same rank as Standard, Historic decks will only be matched against other Historic decks. This makes sense. We plan to offer a Historic Rank Queue for a limited time for around 4 weeks. When adding a competitive aspect to Historic, we wanted to be careful that we do so in a way that allows us to gauge the health of the format and the quality of matchmaking before diving any deeper. Once we get a feel for how Historic plays, we'll look at adjusting how often rank play is available and whether Historic should have its own rank separate from Standard. So they are saying they might consider that. Right now, we plan for it to be available for approximately the last 4 weeks of a card set, with the length depending on the average time between set releases. Right now, ranked play is available and whether Historic should have its own rank separate from Standard. Right now, we plan on it being available for approximately the last 4 weeks. Oh, so they're saying that the Historic... I guess, I don't know. I assume they're saying that, I can't tell whether they're saying Historic Ranked is only going to be there for the last 4 weeks of a card set, or if it's saying the ranked, like its own rank. And I think its own rank is what they're trying to say here. The other way we're looking to expand on Historic play is by planning to hold at least one Historic event per month starting in November. Again, starting in November. I guess technically this is releasing in November, this is releasing in September, actually. Monthly events should always range from Historic versions of Singleton and Pauper to potentially entirely new ways of playing. We're also planning on adding these events to be a way for players to add those new cards we mentioned earlier to their collection. So we might be going back to getting cards from events, because for those of you who don't know, some of the first free events gave out actual versions of cards. So they gave out like Galta and Duress and all that, and so they, instead of, because this was before styles were a thing, and so they were just alternate art, and they stopped doing that. They started giving out styles, and I guess basic lands are actual cards, but this would require you to go through it 4 times to get it, and that's one thing I don't like about them, but I like getting new cards from it. It feels more meaningful than just a cosmetic. Until then, you can use rotated cards. Okay, well, the other hand, we're planning on holding at least one. We are also planning for some of these events to add new cards we mentioned. Currently, the event we have for November will have an entry fee, but players will also receive copies of new cards when they'll join. So you get it when you join, not for winning. We'll have more information for these as we go into November. Until then, you can still use rotated cards in the best of 1 play queue as we announced back in June. While there will only be one play option, decks that contain non-standard cards will only be matched up against similar decks and vice versa. Okay, so when I first skimmed through this article, I didn't read this last part, and I was like, wow, so they're basically just adding another month to all these cards? I think that's a little cheap. But you still just use play, but if you have a card from M19 Dominaria Rivals or regular Ixalan, then it will be, you will only be matched up against other players who have that, so it'll basically be historic. Historic collections. Of all the criteria we set, bullet point 3 was the trickiest to navigate. We wanted to ensure that new players can learn Magic and still learn the ropes to start their collection through Standard, and Draft as the primarily method of play, with Historic available to seasoned players looking to explore more of Magic's rich history. But we also need to look at the long-term impacts Historic would have on MTG Arena. As we move towards supporting a true non-rotating format. It's a difficult problem to tackle, but doing so, we're changing how wildcards work for historic cards. Starting after the November update, crafting a historic card will require you to redeem 2 wildcards of the appropriate rarity instead of 1. I'm not a big fan of that. I will go over that here in a second. If a historic card also appears in a current standard set, players will be able to redeem 1 wildcard for the copy of the standard version. However, the historic version will still require 2. For example, you can play Luminous Bonds in historic, whether it's Rivals of Ixalan or Guilds of Ravnica. But starting in November, the Rivals of Ixalan version will cost 2 common wildcards, while the Guild of Ravnica version will still only cost 1 wildcard. Both versions will be playable in both historic and standard. I am so thankful for this. I was worried that they were going to be, like, in standard, if the card reprinted, like, so say Johnny's Pridemate is a example. If a card was reprinted in M19 and then wore the Spark, if they share an art, you can use it. If they don't, you can't, because I thought they'd try to be like, oh, new players, we don't want them to get confused as to what this card is and why this card can look 17 different ways. So I was concerned about that, but they just confirmed that you'll be able to use them in both. To give some players some time to make their transition, we're not going to make this change until November, giving players time to craft any historic cards at the current 1-to-1 rate. And while historic sets are currently unavailable for purchase in the store, we plan to add limited historical sets back to the 45-pack bundle. Historically, this tended to be the most popular pack bundle for players looking to expand their collection, and this will start September 26th. Limited historic events will be able to be played from time to time for players who prefer drafting as a way to expand their collection. I hope this is accessible through coins. We will have more information on entry price for historic drafts later on. Historic cards and booster packs will continue to offer duplicate protection and contribute to Vault's progress the same way standard sets do. Okay, so this is overall a very negative thing for me. They were like, oh yeah, how do we balance this? Well, we make it so your cards that can only be used in half of the format, so, you can only use it in historic, they're going to require 2 wild cards. I thought they might actually do the opposite. I thought they would either add a historic wildcard option or make it so, like, you got 2 copies of it for every wildcard because, well, I can use a standard card in historic. I can use a standard card in standard, but I can't use a historic card in standard. So I think the idea that they're making it 2-to-1 is ridiculous. It's also making it so players who are join the game later have a much harder time playing historic. I would have, because they're like, oh, so now I have to have a historic deck and a standard deck, especially if they make historic its own queue. I think this is honestly ridiculous. They should make it cheaper, not more expensive. And to add that, you'll be able to buy packs, but only with gems. So good luck if you're a free-to-play. You better have 2 wild cards per thing. And to add to that, okay, you're gonna make me choose an art I prefer less because it's not his standard. I think that is also utterly ridiculous. Honestly, I think what they should do is if a card has the same art, you own like 3 Dominaria Llanowar and 1 M19 Llanowar, and then you should be able to just combine those into one category and choose whichever set logo you want. It doesn't matter. I think that's kind of ridiculous, and the fact that you're only going to be able to buy a 45-pack bundle is ridiculous. I think maybe they could balance this a little bit more, be like, okay, if it's in standard, it's you can buy all the options of it. If it's a year, within a year of rotating, you can buy maybe the big pack and it with coins, maybe even make it cost more. I don't care at this point. Just let people pay gems. I think if the drafting has a way to pay, or did I say pay gems? Pay coins. If the drafting has a way to pay coins, I think this will be a little bit better. But the idea that you have to pay 2 wildcards to get 1 rare, 2 wildcards to get 1 common. That's 8 wildcards for a playset of 1 thing for Historic, and it will overall leave new players further behind. Hey, you'll be able to pre-order Throne of Eldraine when the set comes out. You'll also receive a card style for... Oh, they originally announced what this card style would be. As well as a card sleeve you'll be able to use as soon as your order is confirmed, meaning you can use it before the set even comes out. Now, this means they put it there, meaning I can go on Reddit here in a second and it will be there. That's a lot to cover, and there's a lot more happening in the upcoming weeks. To summarize, players will still be able to use a play queue on and after September 26th to play with either standard or non-standard decks. And players can expect the full launch of Historic as a format sometime in November. For a breakdown of our current plan, here's all the important dates and changes happening with them. September 26th, they rotate out. Players will be able to play with rotated cards in Best of 1, Play Queue, and Direct Challenges. Players can continue to craft using wildcards at a rate of 1-to-1. Players will still be able to purchase a 45-pack bundle with the buy box promo for older sets. All other purchase options will be removed. November 2019, fully introduced Historic. Around 15 to 20 cards from Magic History will be initially added to MTG Arena for use. So remember, if this is a Mythic Rare, you gotta pay 8 Mythic wildcards for a playset. And you can only be used in half the formats. Special Historic event focused on the additional new cards. If they give you them there, I don't imagine them giving you a full playset. I can see them giving you 2, 1. Or maybe you have to keep entering the event to get it. So you have to enter the event 4 times to get it. I don't know. But it'll be focused around the new cards. And I could honestly see these, because this is happening in a very big update, I could see these being more recent sets like Amonkhet, where the code is already done in the game. So I could see that really being what they are, at least this month. But I could see them going back further when they have more time and less things to do in the game. I think that, honestly, this is a good idea, because I looked back at like January or a couple months and I was like, wow, they added like nothing. They must be running out of things to add. People are going to get bored of cosmetics eventually. And so this encourages people to keep upgrading their collection, not just pay when a set comes out and then not pay until the next one. Additional historic events at least once per month. Crafting historic cards will increase to a rate of 2-to-1. December 2019, so we're already talking about December. What's actually happening this month? Historic rank play begins, and historic traditional rank queues will be available for play wins, and will contribute to that season's construction rate. There is currently no separate rank. Quarterly, additional cards added to historic, special events, ranked historic plays, and then past November 2019, historic events. Renewal season is about to begin, and the set is coming out soon, and Historic's in the making. Our next game update is scheduled to go live September 4th, which is next Wednesday. Keep an eye on the status page for maintenance time, and follow MTG Arena for latest updates. Okay, I'm just going to go over this. What is happening this month in the August state of the beta? Let's find out what's happening in August. None of that is happening. This is happening. No, kind of. You're not getting this. You'll be able to get this XP. So there'll be a basically pre-rotated standard event. And that's it. That is literally the only thing they're adding this month, is a pre-rotated standard event, and a reminder, the unbanning of Ferocious Raptor in Best of 3. So, yay, you can play in a pre-rotated standard a month early, which I think is wonderful, because I hate standard right now. It's very abusive, and so I think I'll be playing this, and yes, you get more XP, but that's pretty much it. So that's it being added this month. Honestly, I am very excited that they gave us all this information about the future, but and it's not even in August. I was expecting this update itself to be a huge one. Not huge, but like, because the last state of the beta was pretty early in the month, and this one is like literally the latest Thursday it can be. So I figured they had a lot of development time because they were going to add like Brawl. May I mention that Brawl is not mentioned anywhere in the quarterly going, and they said it'll be there by the end of 2019. I don't see this happening. Honestly, yeah, they didn't talk about Brawl. I figured, maybe they'll add Brawl, because I couldn't see them adding Historic, Rotation, Throne of Eldraine, and Brawl in the same month, so I'm like, maybe they'll do it a month before. Maybe they'll do it in December, but I thought that they would do a code inside the Brawl deck, so hey, you can get the Brawl decks in MTG Arena to encourage people to buy them, but apparently not. So honestly, disappointing for this month, exciting for the amount of information. This is a 26 minute video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you want to see more information like this, so hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.